It's time for the 1430 Connection on 1430 WNAV and 99.9 FM, spotlighting news, newsmakers, and important community issues. Now, with this week's edition of the 1430 Connection, here is WNAV news anchor Donna Cole.
Welcome to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me is Lonise Bias, Dr. Lonise Bias, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I'm going to give you some of my history. About 5 miles away from the high school I started at was another high school in an adjoining county. At that high school was a kid. He was 2 years older than me. He was a superstar on the basketball court. Everyone knew who he was, and if you weren't from the D.C. area, you would eventually know who he was. This kid went on to the University of Maryland, where his, at times, unbelievable, almost superhuman powers on the basketball court continued to grow. On June 19th, 1986, which was 2 days after he was drafted by the Celtics, Len Bias was gone. He was using cocaine. His heart stopped. 4 years after Len died, his brother Jay, also a stand-up player at Northwestern High School, was shot and killed. 2 kids, 4 years apart. Dr. Bias, you're an amazing, inspirational speaker. You teach lots of other people. What you went through, there's a saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here and to share, but I understand that the deaths of my 2 sons was absolutely unbearable. And the thought of any parent losing a child, I would say just the thought, it's 1,000 times worse when it actually happens. I cannot take credit for the strength that I have. It is my faith that has propelled me into a mission to help encourage parents and children. I had 2 sons, one a drug-related death, the second violence, which are 2 of the main concerns we're facing over 30 years later here in our community. So my faith has propelled me into a mission to help others through the deaths of my 2 babies.
Let me read something that I found. It was written by Wayne Kofi in a 1996 article in the New York Post. Her Ph.D. is honorary, conferred by Anna Maria College in Paxton, Massachusetts, but her life's passage is as real as it gets. She is a full-time speaker, dispensing information to schools, community groups, and civic organizations. Earlier this spring, she was a guest of President Clinton at the White House Youth Roundtable on gangs, drugs, and violence, and by all accounts, wowed everybody. She has traveled to 49 states, everyone but Nevada. She has given presentations to corporations and talked to rookies for Major League Baseball and the NBA. When she was done, the guys leaped up with a standing ovation, said Satch Sanders, the NBA VP who runs the rookie transition program. Kevin Hallinan, baseball's director of security, heard Bias's NBA talk and hired her too. She is truly gifted, Hallinan said. She's speaking as a mother, and it just knocks these guys out. She, like a rifle shot, she comes right down the middle. After she was finished, I don't think there was a dry eye in the house.
Wow.
So you don't just speak to a few people here and there. You go around.
Oh, yes, absolutely. When I originally started speaking, I was only speaking to to students in school and telling them just say no to drugs. And then I started receiving requests from corporations and other programs to step outside of my comfort zone with the youth and to take my message global, if you will. So I have an opportunity to address all types of audiences, and today everyone needs some type of motivation.
Now, it's been 31 years since Len died. Has the message changed? I know the drug of choice isn't cocaine anymore.
Right.
It's heroin. We're in the midst of an epidemic. Has your message changed, or is it remained?
No, my message is the same, and that message is the greatest love of all is the love that you must have for yourself. I'm a firm believer that our young people are reachable, teachable, lovable, and savable. We must change our approach in adapting to their needs, and what worked in 1986 is not going to work in 2018. What worked in 2010 won't work in 2018. So we have to become more progressive in working in prevention and helping our young people and putting time into intervention, and also realizing that we should not be afraid to enter the culture. I think some of our challenges come in helping our young people is that so many people that can help are looking at the way they look or the way they dress or what they say. I've been speaking to young people for over 31 years, and when I speak to them, I speak to them with unconditional caring and understanding the difficulties that they're confronted with today. And no matter how hard it may seem that it is with dealing with your child, you have to understand the stages of adolescent development, and then their mind is always developing for independence. That's why you have the terrible twos. Their mind is developing. They don't want you to hold their hand, and as they grow, they get further and further away. Well, they are preparing for independence, but they have years to go before they pass the adolescent stage. But what happens today, you have the adolescent stage coming in with the culture that is so strong today. So it seems like there is an intense pulling on our young people to do the new norm, and that is, if it feels good, do it.
Which isn't always good, the new norm.
That's exactly
and in this
right.
case, it's violence.
Exactly.
All right, let's take a short break. When we come back, more about what can help our youth today and the lessons learned through your history.
Yes.
This is Donna Cole on the 1430 Connection. We will be right back. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me today is Lonise Bias, honorary PhD, Dr. Lonise Bias.
Yes.
She is the mother.
I had four
kids, two of whom, Len Bias, we know, was a basketball star,
Right.
a rising basketball star. His brother, Jay, also a rising basketball star. If you grew up in the D.C. area, you knew those names.
Yes.
I'm just so sorry for what you've been through.
Thank you.
You are an amazing, resilient...
Thank you. I thank all of your listeners out there that remember June 19th, 1986. With all of my heart, I thank you all for praying for me and my family. That's how we got through. And you talk about my two sons, but when it was so dark and I never thought I would breathe again and I begged to die and I could see no light, today I have 5 beautiful grandchildren, and my husband and I are still together. And one of my grandsons just graduated from college. 2 of my grandchildren are in college, and one of them is an athlete. All three of the boys were athletes, and one is an athlete in a high school in Prince George's County.
That's
so
amazing.
It is amazing, and I thank everyone for their prayers, because if I had my way, I would not be here today.
How did you said it's your faith?
It is my faith, and I thank God for the strength that he gave me for such a time as this, to go forth and to build a memorial of life to Len and to Jay both, because Len died June 1986. 42 months later, Jay was murdered. And these 2 boys, I believe, were 2 seeds that went down into the ground to bring forth life. So the work that I do is in memory of who they are. And when I have opportunities to speak to people who have lost children or buried a loved one, I always tell them it's so important to do something in memory of them, if it's no more than a $50 scholarship at a high school, in memory of your loved one, you know, the legacy they leave behind. So I have been given this mission to go forth, and anyone can stand up and speak when everything is going well. But how much more powerful is the message when you know that someone's heart has been ripped to pieces, but yet they're pouring out to those young people and families to encourage them that the best is yet to come. But they have to take good care of themselves.
There's 4 things you like to put out on some of these speeches. I saw this on YouTube, and I love each and every one of you. Unconditional love is what you are all about.
Yes.
When you're talking to children, you have to take everything, the good and the bad.
Yes.
Number 2, if the blind lead the blind, they both fall into a ditch, is what you've said.
Yes.
A confused parent can't lead a confused child anywhere. Yes?
That's right.
It's all about you. Grief from grief to power. Yeah?
Yeah.
The 4th thing?
The 4th thing would be the best is yet to come, because we're in a society, and especially with the oppressive information we're absorbing on a daily basis in our families and our communities, nationally, internationally, and environmentally, with the different storms. It can become overwhelming. And I tell people hope is not extinct. The best is yet to come. And no matter what we're going through, we have to press. We have to press. We cannot throw in the towel. And the term throwing in the towel on our children, on our community, on our nation is a term that boxers use when they're in the ring boxing. And when an opponent's corner, his trainer says he can't take anymore, he throws the towel in to say stop the fight, and we give up. So I tell parents that don't throw in the towel on your children. Continue to cover. And if the blind lead the blind, they both fall in the ditch. So we say, well, this is the way my mother did me, or I didn't like the way my mother raised me. But we have to be intentional and authentic about how we raise our children today and understanding the culture. So I encourage them, hope is not extinct. We have to fight now. I'm the first fruit of what I'm telling people today, because the only way you can get juice from an orange is to squeeze it. The only way you can get oil from an olive is to crush it. And the only way you can get a diamond from coal is under millions and millions and millions of tons of pressure. And the things that we are experiencing today are designed for us to go deeper, because we have what we need to change our environment, our families, and really to make the world a better place, I believe.
And what you've maintained, and it was so interesting, just that statement that if the blind lead the blind, they both fall into a ditch. A confused parent can't lead a confused child anywhere. So you've said that the mental health of the child is important,
yes,
but more important is
the adult. That's right. The parents have to be clear about their thinking, and that somebody is watching you. I tell parents all of the time, good advice with poor example is very confusing. Children will test the boundaries of how far a parent will let them go.
Every single step they take.
They will test the boundaries, but the parent has to remain strong and stay in there, and I mean what I say. I mean what I say, because the boundaries are always like being pushed, but the parent has to stand the ground.
It's not
today.
always easy.
It's not easy, no. And parenting is a full-time job. And I tell you today, I tell any parent today, what your child desires most is you. Rather than talk, just grab them, hug them, kiss them in the face,
listen,
and tell them that you love them, and listen to them. And the only thing that I talk to parents about, self-control, because...
Hold that thought for a second, because we got to take another short break. But when we come back, more about what we can be teaching our youth and how we can help them. This is a lesson for everybody. This isn't just inner city. This isn't just suburbia.
This is everyday America. Everyday America.
This is Donna Cole in the 1430 Connection. We will be right back. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me today is Dr. Lonise Bias. We are talking about the loss of her 2 sons, how she's helped others and continues to help others.
I will tell any parent, I have had people to approach me and ask me, what would I have done different with Len or anything like that. And I tell parents this: as long as there is breath in your child, there is hope. Don't throw in the towel. Unfortunately, with heroin being the drug of choice today because it's cheaper and so much more available, but there's so many drugs today that our young people can get involved with, I would tell a parent to work with the child, try to use the resources that are available, but the main thing to our younger parents who have little ones, start the prevention as early as possible. And Donna, I believe one of our problems today is, and I said this close to 30 years ago, is that we start prevention too late. We start prevention too late. And when we start teaching our children, what happens is we say, oh, say no to drugs. But we have so many social issues today that we're confronted with. So you can't just look at drugs. You have to look at all of the social issues we're dealing with today and work harder to teach our children about character education, respect for yourself, respect for your parents, respect for others, and with all of the bullying and the hatred and the misery that's going on within our schools today with our young people.
I saw in an article you just mentioned character development. I never heard the story. A few days before he died, Len needed some money and wanted to earn some money at Bentley's in College Park. He told the owner, look, I just need to get some extra money. And I guess the owner said, well, why don't you take a loan? You're going to be a millionaire in a few days. And Len said, no, I want to earn it.
Yeah.
Does this ring a bell?
It does not, but I'm sure there are many stories about Len that I have not heard. I'm sure.
So character, this is a guy that knew worked hard.
Absolutely. We are a very close family, and my memories of Len and Jay and our family are all good. We were not a perfect family, but we were a family that stuck together and did everything together. This incident with Len that happened, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable, but we had to deal with the reality of what happened and move forward beyond that. And then another death comes right behind that. And I'm standing here clothed in my right mind by the grace of God and telling people you can make it. So I'm the example that no matter what you're dealing with your children, on your job, your family, whatever, if I'm standing here clothed in my right mind today, I'm telling you, you can do it, but you have to dig within. And the greatest gift of all is the love that we have for ourselves and for our families and for our community.
And it is for our community. That's a big deal with you.
Yes,
It's not about color. It's not about economic background. This is our community, and we all have a part to play.
I remember just touching on so much of the climate today with racism. When I speak to groups, I have traveled to some schools where there may be 30 or 40 different cultures represented there. And I tell audiences on 9/11, I heard a photographer say that day you couldn't see what color anyone was. Everyone was gray, because they were just a human spirit just running and helping one another. But then the other thing that I've said this for 30 years, I am not just making this up. I tell young people, because of the clashes in the schools, I said, if you go to an all-white school, do you know what? White kids hate white kids. You go to an all-black school, blacks hate blacks. You go to Asian school, Asians hate Asians, Hispanics hate Hispanics, Latinos hate Latinos, and then you get all mixed up and you don't like anyone. And I said, well, how can you say you don't like somebody that you don't know when you don't even like your own mother? you won't obey your mother. You don't like your brother. You don't like your sister. So the whole issue here is a sense of learning to value and appreciate yourself and those in your realm of influence, and understanding your belief system, what you believe in. You respect other people's space, but stay in your space. That will bring you life and prosperity.
Dr. Bias, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
This is Donna Cole on the 1430 Connection. We will see you next week.